Oh, wait for it. Here it is. Okay, we're ready to go convert from degrees to Fahrenheit. So if you travel from Canada to the United States, all of a sudden the temperatures are different. Today is a beautiful day. What's our date? October the 8th. And it's going to be plus 20 outside. But if you went to the United States and you went to a place and they said it's going to be plus 20 outside, they would be like, that's not nice, that's freezing. So we need to be able to figure out how do we change from one thing to another. And there are formulas that help us do this. So I'll get you to write this down, because to convert from degrees to Fahrenheit, or from degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius, there's a formula. Celsius is take the temperature in Fahrenheit minus 32 and divide by 1.8. Or if you want to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you take the temperature in Fahrenheit, subtract 32. Oh, I've got a little typo on here. I'll fix it up for you. Yeah, no, these are the same. There's another, and I'm going to show you another formula after. Both of these formulas are exactly the same. It just depends which one you would like to use. So if the temperature outside is 30 degrees Fahrenheit in the US, is that warm or is that cold? Okay, so what we can do is you take the temperature in Fahrenheit and you plug it into your formula where the F is. So if you're using this formula, you'd have 30 minus 32 divided by 1.8. Or you could plug it into the other formula, which is 5 divided by 9 times by 30 minus 32. So we're going to go to our calculator and see what happens when we do this. Now, in your calculator, it's important to know how your calculator works. So with this first one, 30 minus 32 divided by 1.8, having something on the top of a big fraction like that is like having it in brackets. Some calculators are very fancy. My calculator here can even let me write it exactly like this. 30 divided by 32 divided by 1.8 and push enter, and it tells me that the temperature in Celsius is negative 1.1. So I'll write the answer here. I want you to take out your calculator, and if your calculator doesn't allow you to write it like this, then you might need those brackets on the top, 30 minus 32 divided by 1.8. Notice we get the same answer. And the other formula says 5 divided by 9 bracket 30 minus 32. Once again, we get the exact same answer. Probably for typing it into your calculator, for most of you, this formula will be easier to type into your calculator. The one that starts with 5 divided by 9, and then the temperature in Fahrenheit minus 32. So you said if it was 30 degrees out in the States, it would be warm. It would actually be minus 1.1 degrees Celsius. And that's something that we understand better because we're used to dealing in temperatures in Celsius. But sometimes, even though we live in Canada, if you go home, your thermostat might be, at your house, might be in Fahrenheit. Does anybody have a thermostat at home that's in Fahrenheit? What temperature, do you know what temperature people like to set it at? 36? Well, 36 would be like 2 degrees. I don't think I'd want my house to be at 2 or 3 degrees. What's that? 100 and something. If you plug 100 and something in, it's like 40 degrees. Your house would be super hot. Okay? 80 would be fairly warm. Usually if people are setting their house in Celsius, they like it to be around 20 degrees. And in Fahrenheit, they like it to be around 70 or 72 degrees in Fahrenheit. 22 at your house? Okay, everybody ready for the next example? Not yet? So if we change from Celsius to Fahrenheit, we're going to use a different formula. The same formula would work, but you have to do more math. They've also set up a formula that is Fahrenheit equals, it's 9/5 times your Celsius plus 32. So you get to a hotel and you say, I'd like my room at 20 degrees, but your hotel's thermostat is in Fahrenheit. And you're like, I don't really know what I want to set it to. I could guess. I could just guess and set it at 50, and then I go out for supper and I come back and like, ooh, my room is an icebox. Or I could guess and set my room at 100, and then I come back and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to, because everything is melting. So you say to yourself, oops, the degrees should be here, degrees. So you have 20 degrees, that's what you want, you set your hotel room, and this formula here changes from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So what we would do, and this is one, I picked a number that we could actually do mental math if we wanted to. The Celsius is 20. So with a formula, if you know a number, you plug that number in. Usually we put it in brackets, and then plus 32. Do you see what we've done? The only thing we did to this formula is we changed the C to 20 because we knew that value. Now we can go to our calculator and type this in. So I go to my calculator, 9 divided by 5 times 20, or bracket 20, plus 32. And you find out if you want 20 degrees in your room, you would need to set it to 68 Fahrenheit. Yes, they do. There is one temperature that's the same for Celsius and Fahrenheit, and that's -40. So if it's -40 in Celsius, it's -40 in Fahrenheit. Just how the formulas work. I mean, if you would look at both formulas, there's only that one point that it's exactly the same. But so sometimes people remember certain ones, like -40 is -40. If this is Celsius, this is Fahrenheit. We just wrote in 20 degrees is equal to 68 degrees. And if you know one of them, every time you go up by 5 on one, you go up by 9 on the other. So 25 degrees Celsius is 77 Fahrenheit. And 30 degrees then is 84. 35 degrees, oops, not 84, added wrong, add 9, 86 degrees. 35 is 95 degrees, and 40 degrees is 104. So if you remember a couple of them, I don't know why, but this one is easy for me to remember because they both have 4s in it. I'm not sure why. 104 is 40 degrees. This one's easy for me to remember because that's about your room temperature, 68 and 20. Doing the math, it's really easy. Look at this formula. If Celsius is 0, I'm going to add that one in here. 0 degrees Celsius. If Celsius is 0, what's 9/5 times 0? 0 plus 32. That one is a really easy one to remember. Oops, switch colors there. Equals 32. So water freezes at 0 degrees, but in the United States it freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And then if someone tells you, oh, it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you're like, okay, well, if I minus 9 once, that would get me 59. If I minus 9 twice, that would get me 50. So 50 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as 10 degrees Celsius. So we have some of these values that we can just figure out. So every time it goes up by 9, it goes up by 5. And as a starting point, -40 and -40 are the same. I mean, you could count up 5, up 9, up 5, up 9, up 5, up 9, all the way through that. But it's nice to have some of these memorized. So if you ever travel to the United States, or even are in places in Canada with thermostats that are in Fahrenheit, you can do a little bit of change, right? You're watching TV, you're watching an NFL game, and they're like, ooh, the temperature is 52 degrees. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, now you know 52 degrees is probably just a tad bit warmer than 10 degrees. So you get an idea for that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I have a worksheet for working with this formula. You can do that, or you can work on the homework assignment from your textbook from last class.